Good morning. I'm Pete Najarian on this Monday morning. This is the Take for Market Rebellion. I got to tell you something. If you like a yo-yo market, you like volatility, you like velocity, well, last week was your week. And as a matter of fact, extending into this week as well. But going back to Friday, just an unbelievable day. Now, it was really interesting because it was really focused right on those Dow stocks and specifically on three major sectors. You take a look at the financials, the XLF, you look at the energy spot with the XLE, or then you switch over to the industrials, the XLI. We're talking about three major categories, three big sectors that really were pulling on the Dow in a big way, down over 500 points, finished the day down about 530. You look over at the NASDAQ, it's pretty close to flat. It was down 10 points. I mean, it's kind of an absolutely amazing to see just the differences there. And we've seen these dislocations in the past, but not quite to that degree. So that was an amazing thing. And oh, by the way, the volumes, nearly 50 million contracts. We were right at about 49.5 million contracts, where we had Apple trading 2.5 million. You had Tesla trading about 1.6 million. And you know what's back? And it's back again today as well. AMC. Wow. Some of the volumes that we were seeing in there, 1.5 million. Stock was up nearly 19% on Friday. And then you get that Spider-Man weekend. That's been absolutely extraordinary. So the memes, the rebels, they are back, and they are back in force, and they are trading the options and the stock. It's been absolutely incredible. So digging just a little bit deeper into the financials, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, Citi, Visa, American Express, all just getting absolutely hammered when you look back at Friday. Then on the energy side, of course, those beta names are going to be moving, and because they're beta names, they are moving at an accelerated pace to the downside. It was Devon, it was Pioneer, it was EOG, it was APA, all of those names getting hammered to the downside. But then there was the big boys as well. As a matter of fact, ConocoPhillips down a little over 4% on Friday, along with Chevron, which was down about 2.5%. You look over at industrials, it was Caterpillar, it was 3M, it was DuPont, Honeywell, all those names. And of course, a lot of these names that I just mentioned affecting the Dow itself as well. So crude, it's slipping on Friday. It was down into the low 70s. We're talking about 70 and a half, in that sort of a range. 10-year, that really was the pain for the financials, because that was the pull. We've been watching that direct move. When that drops, we're seeing those financials drop. When we see that start to move to the upside, getting up towards that 1.5, that's when the financials have really taken off. It was a lot closer to 1.4 on Friday, and that's exactly why we were seeing the kind of movement we were seeing. But not everything was bad. Coke hit new all-time highs. You had Zoom with a really nice day, nearly a 10% move to the upside. Moderna up about 4.5%. DocuSign adding a little bit as well. So it wasn't all negative, and as obviously with the NASDAQ, not everything was pushing so hard to the downside. So there were some folks out there, some stocks out there that were definitely sticking out. Today, what sticks out right away, you look at the S&P, you look at the Dow, and you look over at the NASDAQ, every one of them in the pre-market down 1% or more. Just getting slapped around a little bit, down about 400 on the Dow, down a little over 200 on the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ is basically flatlined since the pre-markets. Now, we got a little bit of improvement, but now I see we're starting to slip once again to the downside. The NASDAQ, somewhere between, call it down about 190, down to about a lower end of about 240. So that's getting a little bit of a hit. But when you look over at the Dow and you see it starting the day down 400, you know things aren't going to get too pretty. As a matter of fact, they got a little bit worse. Last I looked, we were down well over 600 points to the downside. So a lot of movement there once again. And again, really starting to pound on those Dow-related stocks. A lot of that having to do with looking at the 10-year once again, slipping below 1.4. You look over at crude down a pretty decent percentage, call it close to about 4% or thereabouts, trading right around 67 last I looked. That was pulling on energy in a big way. Energy has been down as much as almost 3.5%. It has improved a little bit off of the lows, but then there are other names or sectors that are getting pulled. Materials weren't that bad. They started to creep down. They were getting hit pretty hard. Consumer discretionary also getting hit pretty hard. Financials, of course, down about 2%. Technology and semiconductors, not nearly as bad, but getting pulled down. And when you look over at the the NASDAQ, you are seeing a definite pull to the downside. And a lot of that is some of the mega cap tech, obviously some of the other influences that we've got, one of which would be you look over at energy. Energy getting absolutely hammered to the downside once again, especially those beta names. You look at APA, you look at Oxy, you look at Diamondback, you look at Marathon, all those names getting pulled to the downside. Throw in the Chinese names as well with PD and Baidu and JD and those kind of names, the trip.coms. They're getting pulled to the downside as well. Obviously, the financials, as I mentioned with that 1-4, you look over at Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan and Wells Fargo, those names definitely feeling a little bit of the pain today as well. When I mentioned the FANG, though, the FANG names definitely pull into the downside, except one, Netflix. Netflix absolutely stands out today and having a pretty decent day. That's the one exception that we are seeing a little bit better movement there. And a lot of that having to do with maybe lockdown potential and all the concerns. Obviously, if you're watching television, you're seeing more and more discussion about what's going on with these viruses and specifically the Omicron virus. That stands out. With that being said, what's really working today? Well, Moderna's having a pretty good day. Pfizer's having a good day. I look over at Kroger's, at Clorox, and those kinds of names, all having a very nice day. Clorox, CLX, that's an interesting one that's starting to pop up. Zoom having another pretty decent day as well. So the one name that I bring up each and every day, the most expensive clothes hanger, you've heard me talk about it, Peloton, once again. It had a nice move on Friday. It had finally had a little bit of a lift, got back over 40 on a nice move to the upside, but today getting hammered once again, and that stock down about 5% today. So got two unusuals for you. I got no commitments after that. I got a little bit of radio, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but no TV today. So a little bit more of a comfortable day. Be in front of the computer watching all of the craziness that we are already witnessing in this first hour. Pfizer's my first one. 61.30 is where that stock was trading. It's already had a really magnificent move to the upside of late, but looking for a little bit more. This week's expiring December 23rd, about 5,500 of the 62 strike calls. So the stock, as I said, 61.30, they're going just out of the money, almost an at-the-money call. The 62 calls are going for 83 cents all the way up to about $1.15 for those calls. Next, I've got one. I'll tell you what, you look at the semiconductors, they're not getting hit to the degree that you might expect on a day like today where you're seeing so much of a bloodbath going on in the markets. They're only down, well, they've been actually very close to flat, and the last I looked, the semiconductors were down about 1%. NVIDIA is my next name. Now, it's trading right around 278.30, very close to that level. 3,500 of this Friday's expiring December 23rd. The 280 call, so just out of the money once again, almost an at-the-money call. 5.25 up to about 720. A lot of premium there. A lot of premium because we are starting to watch these volatilities really start to escalate to the upside. With that, we are seeing the implied volatility of many of these stocks starting to move up a little bit as well. You look over at the VIX trading somewhere between, call it 25 up towards 26. That's a pretty reasonably large jump from where we closed on Friday after Friday. We did jump up over to like 23.5, pulled back, finished around 21.5, but this is a pretty big jump today as well. So keep an eye on that. Always want to keep an eye on what's going on with the volatility. And I'll tell you what, the velocity of these moves just continues to be absolutely extraordinary. Have a great day of trading. Understand what's going on in these derivatives markets. I talked about the volumes. The volumes are strong. They continue to be strong. And they can actually help you with the leverage that they can provide. There's a lot of different ways you can use options in a positive way and also risk reward. There's a lot of different things. But you've got to know all those Greeks. Folks, have a great day of trading.